Yeah, I know. The Shining Force collab isn't the hype anymore, but I just found it hard for me to move on to my other planned videos if I didn't finish with the last member of the collab, Excella. In case you guys didn't know or forgot or weren't here when the collab was going on, she was featured in a special event that you were able to get for free, and up to 5 stars, no less. She's a very solid character, especially for any beginners or anyone else who needs a really strong attacker, if you were able to log in during the duration of the collab. If you guys want to know what she's all about, then let's move on and see what she does and how to build her. Excella's talent. When fighting a unit with a lower HP percentage than herself, her attack and defense will increase, and after taking action, she has a chance of gaining escalation, and what that does is that for the next active attack, her crit rate increases by 100%. And if she attacks using a damage dealing skill, then that skill's cooldown is reduced by 2 turns. For a full-blown attacker, that is quite good. As long as you're lucky to obtain her escalation buff, she'll always be able to output tons of damage since she'll always crit. Plus, she is able to buff her own attack with her unique skill. That even has a chance to let her keep that talent buff, which is even more amazing, as long as you're lucky. So if you're lucky to be able to keep that talent buff, she'll be able to spam her skills as long as that is up, since they do have a 2-turn cooldown, like this one, Raging Thunder, Armor Pierce, practically all of them. For the class mastery stones, the armor and headwear, you can do HP, attack, and defense. You don't necessarily need magic defense, since Flyer's magic defense are quite naturally high. Then the weapon and accessory, HP, attack, and skill. With the arena set, you do want a set like mine, if for whatever reason that you want to set it up. Unless if you want her to deal more damage, you can replace the crit rate reduction for a skill, or if you just want a defensive set, you can replace the crit damage with defense. But I would really recommend using a set like mine for a little balance in between, or do a defensive set for a more slower playstyle. Her best soldier is just the Steel Winged Warrior. 99% of the time, you will use them, unless you don't really have them decently upgraded. With the equips, the only weapon that you really need on her is the Ragnarok. But I can understand if you don't have certain equips, so you can opt in for the Routing Light or Peacemaker, and if you don't have those, then anything else will do, like the Last Justice, so that you can apply a offensive debuff before battle. For the armor, another obvious one, the Last Rite. The Reserve Legend if you don't got that one. If not for that, then usually the Demon Lizard skin is your third best bet for anyone who can use them. For the helmet, you can usually get away with a few things. King's Crown to enable more damage for her team, Flower or the new Snow Helmet if you want more survivability for her. If you want to know what it does, it gives more HP, and when attacked and forced into battle, she has a 50% chance to increase her defense. And note that it's not a buff that she gets, it just naturally increases it. So even if she does have like a defense buff on her, it will stack with it, which I kind of really like. With the accessory, you will always have a variety of choices. If you want her to have some killing power, the 3 Horsemen of Class Advantages. Choose whatever you want to give her, depending on certain situations that you might think you'll get into. You can also use the Winged Shin Guard for the physical survivability, or something that I think will be quite helpful is the Bloodthirsty Nail. It lets you be immune to being silenced, which is really nice because Excella can easily spam her skills with the talent buff, meaning that it'll allow her to deal tons of damage. So if she has this, she won't really have to worry about damage consistency. It will be useful in both content, but in PvP, if you enjoy a more slower playstyle, then I would recommend the Swordsmith's Medal if you are committed to using her in there, even though she's hardly an option. As for enchants, you want Breeze, but in PvP, you can do Clock to spam her AoE. Alright, cool. So now that you guys know what you can give her, let's go on ahead to her first Organ stage for those who are struggling with it. Alright, so we're gonna be up against Kirika with the Shrine Maiden, Sonya, and then we have Alte Moller. So the skills that you can bring, she doesn't have too many 1C options, but I still would recommend bringing her a unique one so that you have a better chance of keeping her talent buff. And then you could do something like Raging Thunder for the additional buff that it gives you, and then you want Javelin so that you can attack from 2 blocks. you can use her AoE, but it'll only be really effective for one turn, and maybe that could save you to reset the skill cooldown or whatever you're looking for. But yeah, considering that and the long cooldown, I wouldn't really recommend it unless you think that it'll save you. And then the Soldier, the Stone Winged Warrior, or the Griffin Knight. With Kirika, get rid of her immediately. She will one-shot you. And if you have the Ragnaroks, even better so that you don't have to deal with the Shrine Maiden effect. Unless you have a high enough damage to one-shot her regardless, then good on you. Sonya can be a bit of a weird one to deal with due to her revive, but right now my Excella does have her talent buff activated right now, so what I'm gonna do is just use her onesie to ensure that she still keeps that, to ensure that I can hopefully maybe one-shot Sonya. Because I do want to one-shot her and then on the next turn be able to kill her on the counterattack. So yeah, Sonya is someone that you may want to stand on the defensive tile because I can understand how much of a trouble that she can be. Sonya is just someone that you're gonna have to tank. And if you can't tank at least 1 or 2 hits from her, then you may not get past her. And then with Ultimolar, a lot more easier to deal than Sonya. With the buffs that you got from killing them, you may be able to one-shot him. If not, then maybe on the counterattack or just go on the defensive tile. But he shouldn't be as bad as dealing with Sonya. Finally with the Thxs. It has a 3 block range and a 3 turn cooldown. The passive on it, when triggering her talent effect, if she has escalation, she is able to heal 30% of her HP before battle for 1 turn. This is a single target that does magic damage and melee soldiers will also attack with her. If the enemy is in gravity field, after taking action, they take AoE damage to enemies within range of it. Again, there is the luck factor because she wants her talent effect for almost everything that she does, but I do like that long range. It's pretty ridiculous. And it kind of encourages you to bring her AoE, so if you manage to position lock the enemy, then you can really take advantage of it. But the problem is though, is that the AoE has a long cooldown. So yeah, you're not gonna get too much off of it, unless you do run clock. Alright, so if you guys are curious, this is what her 3C animation looks like. Alright, so usually how Second Awakening stages work in these type of videos, I don't ever show them off unless they prove to be difficult. The reason being, you do get 3 other characters that you are able to use, and they're plenty enough to carry you, even if your character is weak, which is 90% of the way how these Second Awakening stages work. And ever rarely do they ever seem difficult. If they are tricky, then I can understand that. Just play it well, and if you can't figure it out, then try something new. With that being said, let's go ahead and get right into her showcase. Alright, so in order to understand Excella, when fighting a unit with a lower HP than her attack and defense increases, which is pretty self-explanatory. After taking action, she has a chance to get escalation, and what that does is that for the next active attack that she does, her own crit rate is increased by 100%, and if she uses a damage dealing skill with that up, then that skill's cooldown is reduced by 2. At 6 star, it is a 50-50, so you get lucky and you may not get lucky, and it may take you several turns, which is why I got a bunch of act again right here, so that it doesn't take me forever. Hey, so I'm gonna fast forward here for a bit because me trying to obtain Excella's talent took forever. My Excella has a 40% chance of getting it since I have her at 5 stars, but even with all the actigans that I've been setting up, it still took me up to like round 5 until I finally got it. Oh, but don't worry though. Although it does make her incredibly better, she is still able to perform extremely well, which you'll probably hear me say multiple times in this video. Come on this one please? At least on this one. Finally! That took an unnecessary amount of time to get it. Now the way how this works is that you can see that it does not have a turn duration. So even if she like ends a turn without like doing anything while having it, it doesn't go away. Watch, I'll show again even on the next turn and she still has that. I'll act again on Excella for extra measure with Florentia and she still keeps it. But it will go away when you actually do use like a attacking skill. So I'm gonna use Excella's AoE right here. You can see that it did like a pop-up above Excella showing that her talent effect is taking place. And that's how you know that's the trigger of her using her talent buff. And you can see the damage that the enemies took were yellow, like the numbers were yellow, and that's how you know that the enemies got crit. And if we take a look at her skill, normally that would have been a 6 turn cooldown, but while she was using her skill with that talent effect being active, the cooldown got reduced by 2 turns. So that's how that works. With Excella's unique onesie, this is really good. She gets 2 buff. one that increases her attack by 20%, and another one that gives her a 50% chance of not consuming her talent buff for 4 turns. So if I go ahead and activate this, you can see right there that it did play that little music like it did with Sonya's. I'm pretty sure even Kirika does it as well. I'm not sure what skill it was, but I really like that little extra touch of detail. But anyways though, you can see that by taking a look at her stuff right here, she did get the attack buff and another one that's called Ancient Song. That's the thing that allows Excella to have a chance of keeping it. And just like getting her talent buff, it is completely by luck. So don't expect too much of it. It's more of a safety measure to allow her to keep doing what she does best. And you can see that even after using her skill, she still got to keep her talent effect. Now there is something interesting that I do want to point out. Even without using her 1C to get that Ancient Song buff, you can still get lucky enough to get her talent buff. Because the way how that works is that whenever Excella attacks, and if she has her talent effect, that will go away first. And right after her turn ends, that starts the process of whether or not that Excella obtains it or not. And you will know because it does a little pop-up. And that does happen even if she does have the Ancient Song. I think the visual key is that when it shows that she got her escalation buff, that's how you know her talent took effect. But with her 1C activated, when it doesn't show her talent effect being activated, but you still notice that she still got to keep escalation, I'm pretty sure that's the 1C buff taking effect. So yeah, that's just something that might be interesting to know. But it's not the end of the world even if you don't get it. But it might be something that might help you guys out if you're interested. Her unique 2C, I'm pretty sure you guys already saw it. It teleports enemies within range that takes AoE damage. They are teleported around it if they're within 2 blocks of it. So you are able to set this directly on top of the enemy, and that will cause the displacement effect right away, putting them in the center of the AoE. So if the enemies walk near it, they will get teleported around it. And if there's no enemies in the center of it, that enemy will get teleported to the center, and everyone else who are within range of it, if that enemy is still in the center, they just get teleported nearby. Most likely you're not going to be using this in regular content, but in PvP, if you do plan on using Excella in there, it can be quite interesting to use. Now with Excella's 3C, the range on it is really good, which is 3 blocks long with a 3-turn cooldown, which is not bad. The passive on it is quite nice. When triggering her talent effect, if she already has escalation, she gets a buff that lets her heal 30% of her own HP before battle for 1 turn. The thing about that is quite weird, but let me go through the rest of it real quick. Is a single target that does magic damage and melee soldiers also attack with her. If the enemy is in gravity field, after taking action, it deals a bit more fixed damage. Now the weird thing, the way how it works is that Excella has to use a skill in order for that extra AoE damage to take place. So let me show you what I mean. So after killing that guy, the other one, there we go, that AoE damage right there. Although it does sound like it took fixed damage rather than sounding like it took AoE damage. I'll probably put it up there to let you guys know if it's actually fixed damage or just regular AoE damage right there. And like I said, the thing about it that sucks is that she has to activate her 3C in order to do that extra damage. Which I kind of really wish it wasn't that case. I wish they just took fixed damage in general for standing near it. And although that damage may look a lot to you, this is just a Secret Realm stage. The stats here is quite insane. When you think about PvP though, that 0.2 multiplier isn't really a lot. And the thing about Excella's passive, this is the last thing I want to talk about because it is quite strange. And what do I mean by that? It's the way how you obtain it. So throughout this whole showcase, right? I've been letting her get her escalation and I've been letting her activate it, right? Throughout the whole thing, I don't think you guys have noticed. She never got that, except for maybe like 1 time earlier. But after that though, she never obtained it again, despite me fulfilling the condition to get it. So right now Excella does have her escalation, right? So if I let her do nothing and just end her turn, she doesn't get it. She doesn't get the buff on her 3C. And reminder, it is a buff. It's not a thing that just activates on its own. Now I can let her do many other things, and for some reason she just doesn't get it, except for that time right there. Now I'm not really too sure on this one, because it tells you that whenever she triggers her talent effect, right? She activated it multiple times already, and it already seems like it already satisfied the condition to get it. That's what I'm thinking right now. That's what I'm thinking why she got this in the first place. But if I start over from the beginning on turn 1, now sometimes even just by barely getting it, like I'm on round 3 and she just barely got it. So even if she just did nothing, sometimes she does get her thing, which didn't happen right there. So let's see if I let Valencia again her, she still got it anyways, even while doing nothing. So yeah, with the way how you activate it, I'm still like really confused on it because when reading this, it tells you to let her use her talent effect, like attack while having escalation so that it activates her talent basically, and then afterwards she gets it, right? But another thing that I'm thinking is that as long as she has escalation, she randomly gets it, which I'm still like really confused because it took me like several turns before she even got it. So I ended her turn again and she still managed to get it, but I can show you guys again that sometimes she just drops it. The whole thing is really confusing. Like I can do the whole thing all over again and it'll be like really strange. Like right there, she's just been doing the same thing over and over again and like she's not getting it. And then randomly, she sometimes gets the 3C passive. So yeah, again, I'm letting her do nothing and then randomly she'll just end up getting it. Even before, while I was recording this, I was testing this for about 1 whole hour and it all just felt so random, like right now with this showcase. And I could never figure out how to get it consistently. It's also very weird. Though the passive itself is really good, it's not that much of a bad thing if you don't get it. So don't waste your time to get it unless in certain situations where you think it might help you. But most of the time, I wouldn't really worry about getting it. So overall, Excella is pretty good as a standalone attacker. She doesn't really need anyone to buff her up since she can do so with her own unique 1C skill. It increases her attack, which is really the only thing that she really needs as an attacker, which is fine most of the time. Her talent buff giving her a guaranteed crit is really nice, but the main takeaway in my opinion is the cooldown reduction with the skills. I think you'll mainly benefit that in regular content since you do want skills that are pretty consistent with damage. And it's a coincidence that the cooldown refreshes the exact amount of turns as some of her skills. So as long as she has her talent effect, she'll get to spam a lot. But she does rely quite a bit on luck, so that's where her 1C comes in. But that too also requires luck, if she wants to keep it. Her 2C isn't all that great, most likely in PvP is where you'll think about using it. But in PvP as a whole though, Excella doesn't have a lot of advantages that makes her useful, and most likely won't survive a lot of stuff. Her 3C however, the only real positive that I can see about this one is that you can attack from a pretty decent long range. Other than that, it feels like a pretty standard skill. The extra damage isn't like anything that you want to go crazy about, since most of the time you're not going to be using her AoE anyways. And then we have the passive. It is really nice, I'll tell you guys that. But it seems to me that it's bugged. I don't know about you guys, but that's the way how I see it. Because it feels like I'm doing the things that would otherwise trigger the 3C passive, but sometimes it would and sometimes it doesn't. Because like I said, I tested this out like for an hour straight, and I kept on getting some random results. And like you guys saw in the showcase, I let Excella do the same thing over and over again. Sometimes she would get it and sometimes she didn't. So yeah, I don't even know. Maybe you guys know something that I don't, so feel free to point that out. Also, I do want to mention that she's not entirely dependent on her talent buff. Very useful, yes, but she can still function really well without it. But yeah, for a free character, she's really incredible for what she does. Make sure that she has healers with her and you're good to go. There you guys have it. That was Excella's showcase. A really competent attacker that can rely on her own. Only thing though is that she just needs someone to heal her up. In regular content, she's gonna be amazing in general. Always doing tons of damage, great mobility if she's in her flyer class, which I would recommend her being in, and is able to fit into any type of team comp. In PvP though, I highly would have recommended. I feel like that she can only work well in a more defensive type of playstyle. I just kind of don't see how you would use her any type of way, but one thing that she is going to be doing a lot for you is using her portals to disrupt the opponent's position. She is able to pair well with Grenchill, and just make sure that she is running clock and build her really defensively, while still having quite a bit of attack. I talk about using her portal, but that thing has a really poor range, so it's going to be really hard for you to get anything off of it unless it turns out to be a close quarter fight. But that's all I really have for you guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more, and let me know down in the comments how you guys really feel about Excella and if there's anything else that I missed. Because right now I'm still thinking about the passive on her 3C and I am still quite confused on it. So if you guys know anything about that, please let me know down in the comments. And yeah, thanks for watching. Your fellow Z.